Hi, welcome to the PoliticAL update with me, Alexandra Acker-Lyons. This is the advice I give to millionaires, but you get it for free, and I pay attention to the political news so you don't have to. It is Friday, October 31st. I have missed the last few weeks. I had back-to-back work trips. I broke my toe. I've been sick for 2 weeks. I've got all kinds of sandwich generation stuff going on. Sometimes life gets in the way. But there's always a lot of political news. I'll recap the last couple of weeks and talk about looking forward to Election Day. Also, happy Halloween. I'm wearing my spooky liberal feminist witch t-shirt, which got a lot of laughs at the school Halloween party yesterday. My son is going as Link, fierce deity version from The Legend of Zelda. We start making his Halloween costume very early. It's like my craft therapy during election season. And my husband made like this awesome sword thing. It was a family affair. Mama made the tunic. But post photos of adorable children in costumes because we need joy. Okay, candidate news. A couple of weeks ago, we saw Graham Plattner in Maine kind of have an implosion over his past Reddit posts and a supposed Nazi tattoo that he got while in the military and drunk on leave in Croatia. This is one of those scenarios where it's like, yep, let the voters decide. We don't know if he will recover. I think he's done a pretty good job explaining all of this and just kind of being honest, authentic, etc. Janet Mills is still like a badass and a really good candidate and will raise a lot of money. And DC people should not be putting their thumb on the scale, and we should let Mainers pick. Right next door in New Hampshire, John Sununu jumped into that Senate race. Unclear if Scott Brown will stay in the Republican primary, but Sununu is a very formidable candidate. This will now be an extremely competitive election. Chris Pappas has cleared the Democratic field largely. No other kind of viable candidates are running. Pappas is still up by a couple of points, which against a very popular former governor, that's a really good thing. But New Hampshire has a Republican trifecta right now, and is just one of those states where it's always closer than we think it's going to be. We think of it as being blue. It's not, it's purple. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then Q3 fundraising numbers came out a couple weeks ago. Male candidates are still vastly outraising women. Some of this has to do with primary dynamics in Senate races. So, Sherrod Brown and Roy Cooper and Chris Pappas and others in high-profile races don't have a primary, whereas, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, some other places do. But go give to some women. Go to Women Count. Pick some faves. And then we're also seeing in the races where a challenger has come in against a longtime Democratic incumbent that most of those challengers are vastly outraising the incumbents. This is like not surprising. If you haven't had to run a competitive race in decades, you like don't have the fundraising apparatus that a new candidate does. But it is definitely something to watch. We're probably going to see some upsets in primaries. Okay, other political news. We had the No Kings rallies a couple weeks ago. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but they were really fun, almost entirely peaceful. My son is obsessed with the Portland frog, so we got him an inflatable frog costume, and it was just so fun to be there and joyful. We gotta keep that muscle up. So thank you to Indivisible and all the other groups who organize those. They're already planning the next one. It takes a lot of work to plan those, but really, really proud of our movement. Okay, redistricting. North Carolina is moving ahead with adding one additional seat Indiana is moving ahead, even though they don't have the votes. I think like the powers that be are just under so much pressure from Trump and Vance. But their actual state legislators are like, no, we don't want to do this. Kansas may move forward, but then Congresswoman Sharice Davids has said if they eliminate her seat, she will run for the Senate, and she is amazing and would be a formidable statewide candidate. And then we're seeing Virginia step up. It's a two-step process in Virginia. They have to pass it in one session and then have an election, which is on Tuesday, and then pass it again in another session. Illinois and Maryland are still kind of waffling. There's just some disagreements about within the Democratic caucus about whether or not they should do this. But, all of this is still going on. And then, of course, we have the looming decision in the Voting Rights Act case that was argued a couple of weeks ago at the Supreme Court, which could eliminate any consideration of race in redistricting, which would allow many southern states in particular to basically wipe out majority-minority districts, wipe out the in some cases, sole Democratic representative in their state. It remains to be seen if the Supreme Court will decide this case in time to impact the 2026 elections. But now we just do redistricting all the time instead of every 10 years. So, yay. This also feels like forever ago, but, Donald Trump literally destroyed the White House. It was like such a gut-wrenching thing to see, because it is like the actual metaphor for our life right now. I was in DC that week, and it was just really, really hard. Everyone was just so sad. And then the shutdown still going on. People have kind of said November 1st might be a deadline-ish. We'll see what happens when the SNAP cuts actually go into effect, if that lawsuit preventing those cuts and kind of forcing the administration to move money around and pay for SNAP is successful. These could be some like true pain points, but I think if we don't get a deal next week, this might go on for a really long time, so we'll see. This week, a couple of different kind of post-election reports came out. And I have said this before, but I kind of talk to people from all across the progressive Democratic spectrum. So I have worked with both Welcome and Strategic Victory Fund, huge fans of both of their work. The Welcome report got a little more press. It is kind of talking about ways in which Democrats need to, yes, moderate their views, but I think it's more about how we talk about different issues, which issues we choose to stress. And the thing that Welcome PAC and Welcome Party have done really well is kind of laser focus on a couple of districts where a really good candidate can make the difference. And the name of this organization comes from welcoming new people into the Democratic Party in order to win elections that seem hard on paper. So I continue to be a big fan there. And then Strategic Victory Fund came out with their post-election report that I'm just such a huge fan of their work, takes a very comprehensive view, not only of this election cycle, but of the last several election cycles. And things like, we lost an entire generation of organizers to COVID. And so we haven't done like real round the clock, 365 actual organizing funded at scale in very few places, like Wisconsin maybe being the only exception, for a really long time. And that really hurt us. Obviously, the kind of media ecosystem of it all really hurt us. But I will put both of those reports in the show notes so that you can take a look. And then we are just days away from an actual election where we will get actual data about voters and what they're thinking and if they're voting and what matters to them. So Virginia and New Jersey getting a lot of attention. We'll get those results pretty fast. So Virginia just runs really good elections. They have early voting that starts in September. It would not surprise me at all if they call Abigail's race the moment polls close. She looks to be up by like solid high single digits, if not low double digits. The AG race there will take a little longer. We'll probably get results in New Jersey fairly quickly. Mikey Sherrill appears to have a pretty solid, 5 or 6 point lead. It could be tighter, it could be more. New York City will probably be pretty slow unless Mandami hits like plus 50 by a pretty comfortable margin, because they've ranked choice voting. So that will just take a while to count. And then California always takes a while to count because this is just one question on the ballot. It's only the Prop 50 question. And then like some local races that may not take quite as long, but I would not expect us to know New York or California. Certainly not Tuesday night, potentially not even Wednesday. But yay, voting. Expand the map. I did a panel at the Electing Women Alliance convening a couple weeks ago that included discussions of this topic. And as depressing as some of the redistricting and kind of demographic trends and the blue wall will not save us and all of that can be really depressing, we have to remember that this is also a huge opportunity. It is an opportunity to go organize and do work in places that we haven't been in a while, or at least that hasn't gotten the attention, that in-state folks and folks on the ground think we should be giving to places like a Kansas or a Mississippi. And it's a huge opportunity for women. Women tend to do better in open seat races, which includes districts that are changed because of redistricting, and in places and in primaries where maybe we haven't run really strong candidates in a while. So trying to see the silver lining here. Shout out of the week goes to all the government workers who continue to work without pay. I've done a lot of travel over the last couple of weeks and just, thank those TSA workers and others. And food banks need you. They always need you, but they really need you right now. I signed up to be a monthly donor to our food bank, gave a sizable one-time donation as well. They do prefer money to kind of like the random cans that you have in your pantry, but every little bit helps. And just keep in mind, 1 in 4 kids is on SNAP. Kids, we're letting kids go hungry, and it just breaks my heart. Thank you all. Enjoy the weekend, and talk to you next week.